My brother has lived with my husband and I for a couple of years now but recently moved in with one of his friends. That was fine, but we had arranged for him to have a cell phone while he lived with us and it was agreed he would give it back. He almost immediately stopped answering our texts or calls and even stood us up by saying he would be coming over to get the rest of his things and leave the phone but then never showed up. This resulted in us starting a new billing cycle, so we now had to pay for an additional month of service for that phone. This lasted about a week but he finally did bring the phone back and picked up most of his belongings, leaving behind garbage and junk that my husband and I had to clean up. The revenge started today when he realized he needed paperwork that he had left at my house to open a bank account. He even had the audacity to tell me he needed it within an hour. It's looking like a whole lot of not my problem. Maybe I'll feel like answering those calls and texts tomorrow when I finish cleaning up this room he trashed. I've never had an "I don't work here" experience in my life until yesterday. My partner and I were at a home improvement store where the employees wear maroon smocks or aprons. I was wearing a black tulle shirt and a bright, sky blue jacket, he was wearing a blue sweater and jeans. We both were wearing masks and gloves and talking about whether the planter we were looking at would sit well on the rails of our deck. All of a sudden a woman wearing no mask and no gloves comes within 3 feet of me, almost in between us, and starts asking questions about a dead plant she's holding. I politely tell her that we don't work there and she starts cackling wildly, reaching out to grab my arm. I hopped backwards to avoid her and curtly say, "Don't touch me, please." She rolls her eyes at me and scurries off with her flatbed cart and supposed dead plant, in what I assume is in search of someone who actually works there. All the while, my partner is looking at me with what I imagine is a look of total shock, but I can only see his eyes, which were huge. We were surprised enough at the level of audacity this woman had in trying to grab me that it took us a second to get back to what we were discussing. I'm just super grateful she didn't actually get a hold. I know this post is pretty tame in comparison to some, but I was definitely at a loss for words. This happened a couple nights ago. Eldest child wondered what the smell was in the house at 2 a.m. and came in to wake us up. She often has an oversensitive nose and it was probably a skunk or something outside. After talking for about 10 minutes, I decided fine, I'll go look. As I started going downstairs, it hit me. We actually had a gas leak. I could smell it going downstairs. My brain stopped. How could this happen? I went back upstairs, and told her to get to her bedroom. Wife was up at that point as well. I decided to hold my breath and go back down. We just replaced the igniter on our oven, and I wondered if somehow that go bumped, didn't light up and is dumping gas into our house. The scene from Jason Bourne popped in my head. Please let the toaster be off. Holding my breath as long as I could, I opened the back door then went to the kitchen. I heard the hiss at first and tried to figure out where it was coming from. Finally I found one of the burners didn't get turned off after dinner. When the pan was removed to put in the sink, the air put out the flame because it was on low. That was 6 to 8 hours earlier. I'm thinking, no wonder I was feeling tired watching TV earlier. I was being poisoned, and just lucky that I decided to go upstairs to bed instead of falling asleep on the couch. Luck +1. I quickly turned off the gas, not realizing when you do that it turns past the igniter for the burner. I must have been fast enough. It didn't do the spark. Luck +2. Quick thinking on my part told me to also open front door to get a draft going. The dumb thinking on my part was to turn on the fan vent in the laundry room just off the kitchen. Later we read that turning on that vent could cause a spark, and more likely than turning on a light. Luck +3. While I was downstairs, the wife called the gas company and then we all left the premises. Gas company showed up an hour later or so, took a while, and did a sniff test then pressure check. Pressure good. If I didn't turn off that burner, we would have had to call a plumber to come out and figure out where the leak was. Luck +4, saved me $300 to be told turn off the stove. All in all, I'm alive, my family is alive, and the house we are renting didn't blow up. Luck +5. I think I'll go buy a lotto ticket. On the downside, the next day, I did Google house gas leak explosion and about crapped my pants as to what could have been my fate with all that gas filling the downstairs. And #X200B. DL, doctor, gas stove left on unlit for 6+ hours. Could have blown up house turning on laundry fan. This all happened years ago. My then husband had a girlfriend. That I knew. She worked next door to him at the way of the sub. I was pretty good friends with everyone that worked there, especially her boss. So after I threw him out for having said girlfriend, I decided to let her know how I felt. I went up to the sandwich shop and found my good friend. While the girlfriend made my sandwich, standing right beside her boss, I tearfully told the whole story to the boss. Standing next to girlfriend, making my sandwich, I told every detail, except her identity. Right down to how upset our kids were and what I thought about people who go after a married man and the married men who cheat and break up their family. Boss lady said all the right things. How could he? What kind of woman is okay with doing that? What she thought of this unnamed woman and so on. The other workers I was friends with chimed in too. The other woman was much disparaged by all. And she couldn't say anything because she didn't want everyone to know it was her. And you know what? I got the sandwich for free too. While students took each of the true/false tests in my college history class, the professor would sit at his desk in front of the class and complete the answers on his own form for grading. A group of students would watch the professor to see if the answer for the first question was D or F and so on through the remainder of the test. Obviously these students were the top students in the class, receiving an A on each test. I decided that it was unfair that I studied hard to learn this stuff to keep up my grade point average and they were cheating their way to an A grade. So I mentioned it to the professor who at the next test, deliberately put the wrong answer on each question. It was hilarious to see how chagrined these cheaters were when they were made aware that they had been outed. I work in a small neighborhood market. I have a customer who is, judging by the light show he has installed on his bicycle, a meth head. He came in the other night and had a pistol tucked into his belt with his shirt tucked in behind it. I told him I wasn't comfortable with him bringing a gun into my store. He assured me it was perfectly safe and it was open carry and if I happened to be robbed while he was in the store he could shoot the robber. I asked him if the gun was registered, if he had a license for it. If he went to a shooting range to practice using it? He said, "Oh yes, of course I do." I asked him if I could see his license and open carry permit. He said no. He then told me a funny story about how he almost shot his foot off when the gun went off accidentally. How does someone who is trained with firearms let a gun go off accidentally? But since I am just a lowly worker bee, I have no real authority, so I rang him up and got him out as fast as I could. The next day I told the boss. She has been running this store for 30 years and can tell you the family history of nearly everyone in the neighborhood. This moron spent 2 years in jail for a failed bank robbery. Who tries to rob a bank on a bike? This guy. The boss told him if he ever brought his gun into the store again, I am allowed to tell him to leave and to call the cops. So far he has left the gun at home. Thanks for reading. So I work in the IT department for a school district and lately a lot of our work has been remote, but I still go in for a few hours on some days if I have a reason to. Today happened to be one of those days. I was getting in my car so I could drive to a different school and off in the distance I heard a car horn honk twice followed by an engine revving. I looked over and I see one of our maintenance trucks barreling towards me. The truck veered into the line of empty parking spots I was parked in and was now driving directly at me. A few yards from my car, he turned and stopped on a diagonal with his driver's side facing me and just said, "Hey, whenever you get a minute, can you go to the maintenance barn and look at the computers? One of them completely froze up on me yesterday." This was a nice twist on the typical "while you're here" requests, or somebody stopping me in the hallway. I can honestly say this was the first time someone has driven a vehicle at me to ask for help. I found it amusing. I hope you all did too. We don't have an ice machine on the first floor. It usually isn't a problem because we also don't have any guest rooms on the first floor either. When people do ask the desk for ice on the very rare occasions, we'll either tell them there's ice on their floor or get it for them from the machine in the kitchen, not accessible by guests. Obviously, the kitchen is closed right now due to everything going on. So anyway, cue this elite tier member who comes to check out at 6 a.m. Gee, hi, I'd like to check out. Me, okay. I'll just grab the keys from you and get you a receipt. Gee, I'm going to go get ice for my water bottle while you're printing that. Where's the machine on this floor? Me, actually, there isn't one. There's one on every guest floor by the elevator. Gee, oh. Wow. 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 In that very condescending tone we're all familiar with. She didn't want to say anything because she was hoping I'd offer some kind of compensation. She literally just stood there and didn't say anything else. Me, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'd offer to get you some from the kitchen but it goes without saying that the kitchen is closed so their ice machine is turned off. Gee, so you're really going to make me go all the way back upstairs for some ice? Me, unfortunately, due to there being no machines on this floor, that is the only option. Gee, You know what? This is just the icing on the cake. I have had a terrible stay here. She rants about how everything in the hotel is closed, bar, restaurant, pool, etc., and that everything in the area appears to be closed as well. Housekeeping also isn't cleaning stayover rooms for their safety and the guests. Our website also has a notification when booking rooms to make the guest aware that some services may not be available due to the global situation. We also tell people that when they call in to make reservations and they're told before they even check in. Ma'am. I apologize that we're all having to make sacrifices. The website does have a notification of these necessary changes so you're made aware of everything before making the reservation. We also tell you upon check-in. You agreed to pay for the room with this understanding. Gee, I just thought that you may show a little more respect to an elite tier member, but I guess not. Why on earth would I pay this much for a room when I'm getting the bare minimum? I'll be taking the general manager's business card and he will be hearing from me. All I wanted was a nice weekend with my family and you people ruined it. Her rate was actually half of what our regular rate goes for when business is normal. And we're not even a full-service hotel, so I don't know why she was expecting the world handed to her on a golden platter. I didn't bother trying to get it through her thick skull that her kids aren't on vacation. I just gave her his card and let her storm out. Lady walks up to the counter and asks to refill her Ventolin. I noticed that it was just filled 2 weeks ago. Looks like we just filled this for you. Are you out, or is there a reason why you need it early? I am out. I've been using about 2 to 4 puffs every 4 hours every day. I start to counsel on how overusing rescue inhalers can actually make her condition worse and am abruptly cut off mid-sentence. I know how this med works. I'm a medical assistant. Okay. Well, I can run it through a discount card and you can pay cash for it, or you can wait until Medicaid will cover it again. I guess I just won't breathe. Walks away. I dig deeper on her file and see that she's non-adherent with her Advair and hasn't filled it in over 3 months. Can't say I didn't try. This happened around 2011 to 2012 when I worked tech support for a major telecom company. Hello, thank you for calling company, this is. Man, you gotta help me get this phone working, man, it's life or death. At this point I should note that he was calling in from the line on an account that I'm assuming, but not entirely sure, was his. Okay, let's get you fixed up. Can you verify the name on your account? Man, we don't have time, this an emergency. At this point I decide to just start with basic hardware troubleshooting since I don't have to verify anything for that. I understand this may be urgent, what's the issue? You gotta help, man, there are bodies. Bodies, man. I pause for several seconds, replaying that in my head and confirming that yes, he did in fact say there are bodies. Sir, what's the issue with the phone? Oh flip, I gotta go. Click. Never did find out what was wrong with the phone. Are my prescriptions ready? No, there is nothing filled for you. Do you need something refilled? Well, I got a phone call from you this morning. What did the phone call say? That my prescriptions would be automatically refilled on the 29th and that I should contact you if I had any changes or questions. Okay. Do you have any changes or questions? No. Okay. So what can I do for you tonight? I want to know if I can pick my prescriptions up now? We do not have anything filled for you. Then why did you call me? Didn't you just tell me the message told you that your prescriptions would be filled on the 29th and to call the pharmacy with any changes or questions? Yes. So, do you have any changes or questions? No. Okay. So, what can I do for you tonight? Can I pick my prescriptions up anytime now? One of my coworkers tested positive for COVID-19. Anyone who had contact with him has to quarantine for 14 days. He works odd at 5 nights a week and I'm his relief in the mornings. We would be around each other for 10 minutes max while I count the cash drawer and he passes along any important info. Apparently that's enough time to warrant a self-quarantine. We found out yesterday his positive result and my boss said the hotel will shut down for 2 weeks. Now this morning he wants to let the regulars stay next week, but there's no front desk staff since everyone had eventually come in contact with the auditor. This should be interesting. To clarify, I have a pet rabbit, white fur gray patches, the cutest little guy, he looks like a stuffed animal, that's how perfect he is. I adopted him last year as emotional support. I've got a lot of issues and on top of it my living situation throughout life has made it worse. Needless to say I feel calm and happy around animals. He's spoiled, 2 beds, various blankets to roll around in, special treats, shared fruits and veggies. He's my new fruit buddy, and he'll give me nose kisses and cuddles when I'm having a meltdown. But that's not the point of this story. This happened literally today. Me and my boyfriend along with a friend of ours got online to play on PS4. I looked over at Apollo's cage and I decide I'd like to have Apollo on my lap while we play, so I get him out and calm him down. He's now in my lap and I plug in my headphones to communicate with my boyfriend, and during the game, we load in and everything is grand. We're all talking, until suddenly I can hear out of only one earbud. I look down and Apollo has leaned over and my right earbud is now clean off. Needless to say, I should have known better. I had to call my boyfriend to tell our friend what happened and that I'm going out to get a new set, and I came in to tell my parents and my mom bursts out laughing. TLDR, played video games with the rabbit. Rabbit chewed my headphones. I had to buy a new set. Through some circumstances entirely beyond our control, COVID, I am living with my in-laws. My mother-in-law is gracious and kind and really is fantastic to live with. My father-in-law is petty and contentious. Except with me. He just won't talk to me. He thinks it is supposed to hurt my feelings. I come from a family who don't talk to one another almost as a matter of course. He's mad because my wife, his daughter, and I eloped nearly 10 years ago because he did not support our relationship. Well, after about a month of being ignored, I decided I could be petty, too. I blocked the Fox domain on our router. Oh, I forgot to mention that my father-in-law is a religious Fox watcher and seems to think Trump can do no wrong. Yep. Petty. He started it. This is currently still happening. So I really like gourmet loose leaf teas. I don't know why, I just love how robust the flavors are. A few weeks ago, my mother-in-law sent me a sampler box of different exotic flavors of tea. I was thrilled. I've been trying new flavors about once or twice a week and so far, everything has been great. Until today. I decided to try a new tea, and it wasn't bad. I drank a whole mug. About 10 minutes after finishing, I started to feel a little queasy. I thought maybe it would go away. It didn't. It very quickly got worse. A lot worse. And then my stomach started to feel like it was full of molten lava. I read the label on the tea and on the bottom of the container it said contains almonds. I am allergic to almonds. I ran to the bathroom and immediately began dry heaving. Violently dry heaving. Nothing I did would make anything come up. I'm still trying to vomit and nothing I am doing is making anything come up. I'm so nauseous it's making me feel high, like I'm having a bad trip. It's been an hour and I still can't get this tea out of me. It's gonna be a long day. TL/doctor, I accidentally drank tea that had almonds in it, and I'm allergic to almonds. It's making me extremely nauseous and I've been desperately trying to vomit for the past hour and I've achieved nothing besides a few unproductive dry heaves. Still nauseous. Update, I was ultimately completely unsuccessful in trying to vomit. So I took some of my husband's prescription anti-nausea medication, and I'm waiting for the burning in my stomach to calm down. Thank you for all your concern. It's been a rough morning. Embarrassed smiley face. Update 2, the anti-nausea pills worked, and the burning sensation in my stomach has finally calmed down. It was a rough 5 hours but I'm doing a lot better now. Thank you for everyone's concern and help. I work security in retail and we just reopened. So my job description has changed, so I am glorified person counter, and the amount of people that tell at me because we only allow 50 people in the store is insane. It was pouring rain all day and people were mad at me that they waited in lines in the cold to get into the store to shop. When my answer was you didn't have to wait in line, nobody forced you, you could have stayed home in the middle of a pandemic in cold rainy weather and shopped online. She yelled and sweared at me and told me I could have stayed home. I told her that if I didn't have to be a glorified babysitter and wasn't getting paid, you bet I'd be at home. She yelled and caused more of a scene. So I kicked her out, and banned her from the other locations in our city, smiley face, smiley face. So for background info, we changed our hours to 11 to 8 during the week and 11 to 7 on Sundays. At exactly 8, I turned off the open sign and locked the doors. At 8:20 I see a car pull up. I get a phone call from the man in the car asking if I can do a to-go order for him and I say no, our kitchen and restaurant closed at 8 and just how sorry I was. During this, his wife comes in because the door wasn't shut properly due to other guests leaving. I'm on the phone with this lady's husband while she's wandering around the front area of our restaurant. The lady's husband then asks me if I have any extra food in the back and I say no. First of all, I wouldn't give him any even if we did, that's just not a thing. The lady finally leaves after grabbing a menu and I hang up with the guy. I see the car is still sitting there and I get a phone call from the same number and it's the wife pretending to be someone else asking if we're open and all that. I say no and apologize again, acting as if I don't know it's the same people. I'm finally able to clock out, so I'm heading to my car and I see their car has moved to face our patio where customers are still finishing their meals. I hear their car phone ringing and I just know they're calling the restaurant, but no one is answering because we're closed. Just because there are people finishing meals after closing doesn't mean I'm about to call our kitchen staff to come back, reopen the kitchen, get these two people seated so they can have dinner after closing. If I say we're closed and the signs say we're closed, then don't keep calling pretending to be other people and asking if we're open when you know we aren't. We want open for you. Happened a few years back in my old job. I was on the sales team of a small Chinese chemical firm that was still trying to develop new customers. The procurement manager of one of our potential customers, let's call it Lucky Star, asked us to send a 230 kg sample, one steel drum, net weight, to their site for industrial trial. Usually the way it works is that we'll ask our logistics company to truck it to the closest transit hub, where the drum will be loaded on another truck bound to a different transit hub. Repeat the process until it gets to the destination. This will usually take around 2 to 7 weeks, depends on truck's availability. Lucky Star's procurement manager is fine with the delay. But the site manager won't have it. 2 to 7 weeks is unacceptable. We need them now. This is actually not uncommon in our industry. Lots of site managers are in the payrolls of their company's supplier, so whenever a new competitor shows up, their spies will feed them infos and alter lab results. My boss knew it well. So he told us to ask Lucky Star's site manager if air freight and other options is okay. But make sure you record your phone call. And I did just that. The exact exchange was forgotten. But this is roughly how it went. How long will it take? Depends on the flight schedule, but it will probably take about 1 to 2 weeks, since we'll need to get approval from the airline first, provide them with MSDS and other documents for safety reasons. Unacceptable. You're too slow. We can get the sample to you in 2 days if you wish. Well, do it then. At this point I'm starting to lose it. But I told him I'll see what I can do. My boss was listening right next to me. Did you guys figure out the payment details? I told them sample will be free. Did you say we'll handle the shipping cost? No? Good. He told me to send the package with the 2-day option. But, with payment on arrival. Which is 10 times more expensive than the usually method. So I did just that. A few days later, I got a very angry site manager screaming at me on the phone. He was later on replaced by someone else. Recently the truth was revealed to me. Turns out, the procurement manager, my boss and the replacement guy were all in it together. They all worked for the same company for about a decade until they decided to quit. My boss went solo and founded his own company, in the same industry. His friends were all headhunted to Lucky Star. One to procurement and the other to production. They claimed the whole thing was to get rid of an old flip without any progressive mindset and won't bat an eye if Lucky Star suffered financial losses. They claimed they're actually doing a favor for the company. With a new competitor in the supply chain, it will bring down the production costs by forcing actual competition. I left the company to pursue other careers afterwards. But I still think about what they told me that day occasionally. I was unemployed for a couple months, and finally got hired by a retail store. I was told I would be working recovery, folding clothes, making things look nice, and then all of a sudden I was switched to working fitting rooms, cleaning them out, putting stuff back. Long story short, I hated it. I absolutely hated both folding clothes and putting stuff away. I worked with a guy, an older guy. I didn't care for him much at first. He was the main fitting room attendant. He worked here for a while and I got to know him a lot. He was old. He could have been my grandpa, to be honest. I learned a lot about him and learned he was from England. He liked a lot of things I didn't like: soccer, politics, golf, but something about him made me enjoy working there. He didn't have kids. He wanted kids, but his wife, who they had an amazing love story on how they met, but that's a whole other tale. Every time I worked with him it was great. He never got as much credit as he deserved and I wish he did, and I wish to this day he got better pay. The saddest I ever seen him was when his wife got in a near-death experience. She had got in a car accident, with a big semi, almost died. That was the first time I ever seen him late to work. He was so committed to his job he still came in. But I remember him calling his wife later that day and he was very relieved she was able to go home. I always bumped it with people at work, Fist bump, and every time I'd reach my fist to him he would laugh and bump it. I got really tired of working there and it was hard for me because I didn't want to leave my friend. I made a lot of friends working here, but that was my best friend even though he was years older than me. I ended up quitting and I never got to say goodbye, which really irked me. About 5 months later I returned to the store. I knew I didn't want to buy anything, but I did find him. I went up to him and we talked for what felt like a long while, and we bumped it. It's never goodbye. He will always be a friend, and I hope I brought him the joy he brought me for the year and a half we worked together. TLDR, met a guy at work, was my best friend, never got the chance to say goodbye when I quit, but finally got my goodbye, but it wasn't a goodbye. My restaurant is opening up tomorrow for dinner, like so many of y'alls that have already opened. Well, that's it. I am leaving what used to be the greatest job I've ever had, with some of the most fun and caring coworkers, because we just had to open immediately. We are not social distancing properly, they're keeping the bar open completely, and masks are recommended. I have asthma, so yep, I'm done. I live vicariously through this sub until this all chills out. Keep the posts coming, and good luck and health to everyone in the next few weeks. Alright. So thank you for whoever is reading this random post from the internet. I am just ready to give up and I don't know what to do. Here's a little of backstory. All throughout my life till 6th grade, elementary, I was in perfect shape and was even one of the fastest runners around considering I would always play outside from friends and so on. Things turned all dark because of horrendous things that happened that I wish to not disclose after 6th grade. Once I was done with elementary, I moved 2,000 miles away from my hometown and things went downhill from there. I didn't have friends, I had nobody and life went dark. To cope with my situation, from 7th to 9th grade I've been building up fat by eating and playing video games every day of my life. Don't get me wrong, I was always very successful in school, but every time I'd be finished with my assignment or test or whatever, I'd go back to the screen to my lonely world to talk with randoms on online games to feel as if I'm socializing a bit. This kept going all through now, in which I'm in 12th grade in high school and I'm just graduating. Thankfully, I'm getting a free ride to my local university. However, my life keeps spiraling down. I am 18 years old and I am currently 380 pounds. Yes, you read this correctly. I'm 380 pounds. I still sit at my computer and play video games and do absolutely nothing productive unless it is academia related. I get motivated someday and the next day I just give up and I don't do anything and I return to my cycle again. I'm just in an endless loop. Here is the food I eat. I typically don't eat breakfast. I just don't. I eat a chicken sandwich with maybe a water or Coke with some chips or fries. Sometimes I don't even eat lunch. Now with the ultimate move, for dinner, this is where I'm assuming most of my fat comes from them meals. I come from Middle Eastern origins, so as you would expect, my mom's cooking is always very fatty, delicious, and definitely not healthy. I happen to believe that the issue isn't even with my eating considering that most of the time I end up eating one meal a day. I believe the issue to be with my lack of movement and exercise. I don't know what to do anymore nor do I know where to get a true drive to keep me pushing to exercise as opposed to motivate me for one day and keep me in this endless loop of a disgusting fat body in which I can barely even breathe in. Also to clarify something, I went to a dietitian and I didn't benefit from it at all. I just want to do it on my own and get off my A and start working. I want to thank anyone who made it this far. I didn't even notice I wrote this much. Anyways, good night for now. This just happened and I'm so embarrassed. To start this off, I need to explain plugged milk ducts. When you breastfeed, you can get hard painful lumps in your breast where particularly sticky milk hangs out and causes a blockage. It is not a great time. If you don't take care of it, it will progress into an infection and all sorts of other bad stuff. To fix them, you can use heat, massage, and all sorts of other things. Naturally I enlist my husband to help massage the clog to help break it up. He is way better at it than me and ain't nobody got time to massage their boob all day. This is 100% not sexual in any way. It hurts and I'm not a fan. I was due for a massage before bed, so I walked in and told my husband I need you to grope me. He had his headset on, so I assumed he couldn't hear me over whatever game he was playing. Naturally I said it louder. I need you to grope me. At that point he turned to me, muted his microphone and said, I was on a work call. And I was not muted. He hasn't had a late night call in some time so it didn't even occur to me that that could be a possibility. Luckily none of his colleagues have said anything about it. Yet. I'm sure his coworkers have a fun story now at least. DL. Doctor, I asked my husband to grope me, non-sexually, multiple times while he was on a surprise late-night work call. This is a rather creepy thing that happened to my sister during her modeling years. It wasn't an isolated incident either, it actually happens a bit to underage models. According to my sister, she was doing some photo shoots for a local event when this guy showed up. He was a photographer and did specialized shoots. He waited until she was alone. My mom did attend these shoots. He waited for my mom to leave for the bathroom and then asked my sister to these special shoots. My sister did tell the guy no and told my mom and one of the other photographers what she was asked. The other photographer who was in charge called the guy out for asking such things and that he was now leaving the session. It was handled without the police being called, but my mom and sister did press charges on this guy. But what happened next to this guy still baffles me. So in 2005, I was at a sci-fi convention and guess who is there? Yeah, the guy who did the special photo shoots. He was in one of my photographs and my sister saw it. She was shocked and thought he was either dead or in prison. So fast forward to 2019, April of that year, months before my sister's death. The creep tries to do this special shoot on another 14-year-old girl dressed as a Jedi. Con security and the police get involved. He was arrested for solicitation of a minor and possession of CP. Now ask how I know this? I was in the crowd outside the hotel as the guy was hauled off. So Mr. Special Photographer, hope we never meet, and to any future models, be careful out there. Hi. New here. Just some background to understand the title. I recently got a new post starting Monday that was supposed to be away from downtown with little to no homeless population and little to no mentally unstable people besides those that feel entitled to the world. Also a little history/government lesson no has really taught anyone is that although the Native American government and the federal government are two separate entities, the federal government still holds power over the native one. Important in the story. Now on to the situation that happened not but at least 10 minutes ago. I was finishing up my lockup and moving my car above ground since it was getting cooler as the night grows closer, when I suddenly hear screaming and what I thought to be an argument. So naturally as my security instincts kick in, I go to check, taking a bottle of water with me just in case. My mistake. As I approached the woman, she started to get up and walk away. Odd but okay. I wait for any opportunity to interrupt and ask if everything is okay, showing great concern. Whether for her or myself I'm still not sure. The woman informs me that she is lost and simply trying to get back to her hotel. The only one I knew of was the one across the street, so I offered to guide her across the street when she starts to cry a little. She then goes back to her phone and starts talking to the other person on the other line and proceeds to inform me that it's her therapist and she calls her every Thursday. She then tells me that she is trying to sue a certain Native American government. I won't disclose which, as it might give my location away, and tries to inform me that they are different from the federal government. I managed to guide her around the building that was in front of the hotel and had to tell her 3 times that my building was not where she needed to be. She finally meandered across the road and off my property and becoming no longer my problem. I'm not sure if she was just drunk or truly mentally unstable or both, but still I'm glad she left. I did let my fellow officers at the other location next to the hotel in case she moved onto that post as well. I work at a small electronics store with a long and weird history. The owner, who inherited it, currently is also the manager and does a lot of actual work. The scene: I'm processing an incoming order. As I dig through the big box of stuff, I pull out some Cat5e and 6 Ethernet cables. The manager and a co-worker are nearby. Me: wow, I can't believe we're still stocking Cat5e cables. They're so outdated. We should be stocking Cat8. CW: yeah, we often get professional networkers, customers looking for Cat8 cables. Manager: blah blah blah, what are the differences anyway? Me: Cat5 can do 10 megabits at 100 meters, and 100 megabits at 30 meters. Cat5e can do 100 megabits at 100 meters, and 1000 megabits at 30 meters. Cat6 can do 1000 megabits over 100 meters, and 10 gigabits over 30 meters. Cat6a can do 10 gigabits of 100 meters. Cat8 is the end of the line for copper, and it can do 40 gigabits over 30 meters. Manager: something something something, I'm promoting you to statistical analyst. When I say the line, what do you say? Me: Cat5e can do 100 megabits over 100 meters and 1000 megabits over 30 meters. Cat6 can do 1000 megabits over 100 meters and 10 gigabits over 30 meters. A nursing supervisor friend of mine was working at our hospital. She told me this story. A patient died and was taken to the morgue in the basement. He was a recent code blue from the ER. The family arrives later that night and asks to see the patient in the morgue. Some people need closure. The nursing supervisor escorts the family to this locked and restricted area in the basement. It's close to midnight and the family wailing, overcome by grief. They are so upset he died and want to blame someone. They collectively grab the body partially wrapped in plastic. They said they want to throw him on the front lawn and call the press to expose the hospital for perceived wrongdoing. They start running down the hall, the body in tow. This basement is a literal maze of hallways containing laundry, kitchen facilities, medical supplies and even a loading dock for supplies to be delivered. There are many locked areas which make it a confusing place to negotiate. It was like the Keystone Cops or a Scooby-Doo scene, going in and outdoors, running up and down various hallways with the nursing supervisor in pursuit. The family were unable to find a way out. They finally gave up, and the patient was returned to the morgue. Edited for clarification. Written on iPhone, but that's no excuse. Cast: Old owner, Roy. New owner, Joe. Me. TL Doctor is at bottom. I work under this hotel owner for 10 years. He is from another country and speaks English as a second language. I had issues with him, but I don't interact with him because I work graveyard shift. I will call this owner Roy. Anyway, Roy is a cheapskate who insists on turning off the outside lights at 2 a.m. That means it's pitch black until sunrise. I try to tell him it's dangerous, but he doesn't listen. In fact, he would check the security cameras, and if he sees them on, he would come out of his apartment in the hotel and order me to turn off the lights. Anyway, Roy finally sold the hotel to a new owner that I named Joe. Joe was cool and was getting ready to fix up the hotel. Since Roy and his wife live in the hotel, Joe gave Roy and the wife a month to move out, but Joe made it clear that he is the new boss. So, I was sitting at my desk watching bad sci-fi movies, working, thankful to be in the light. Then, Roy showed up and ordered me to turn off the lights. Now, I was confused. Joe was my boss now. I tried to tell Roy that he doesn't work here anymore. No, I have 30 more days. I knew I can't get through to him, so I ignored Roy since I was leaving for a better paying job closer to home. The next morning I told the front desk manager and Joe. It turned out that Roy had been bossing everyone all day long. So, Joe kicked Roy and his wife out. I left the job a day or so after that. So, I don't know what happened after that. I just hope Roy and wife is doing okay. TL Doctor boss orders lights out every night but sells business and still gives orders, gets kicked out of apartment quicker. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical DJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. Happened 1 hour ago. I was playing GTA 5 in story mode for fun when my 8-year-old autistic daughter entered the room. She loves animals. As I was just cruising along the city, I decided to show her a bit of the map. Just cruising along, obeying all traffic laws. No drive-by shootings or crashing cars or other violence because I know she cannot handle that. Give way when needed and stopping for orange and red traffic lights. Just like in the real world, I was waiting for the lights to go green. When the lights went green I pulled up, and just at that moment a cat decided to cross the street and got under the front wheel, killing it instantly. Daughter left the room screaming in panic, shouting that I killed a cat, wife upset because she didn't know it was a computer game, 5-year-old son crying because sister is crying and mother is upset. I think I will wait another 30 minutes before I go downstairs. Problem is that I had told my wife I was working on my administration, not playing computer games. DL Doctor, don't try to play GTA 5 peacefully together with autistic daughter while promising my wife I'm working on the administration. The game will add mayhem anyway. Now I need to explain my wife what happened. Edit, spelling. Edit 2, me and my wife had a good laugh about it. Talked with my daughter, explaining that the next time I would be driving at the same spot, the cat will be regenerated again by the computer. We are all good now. However, she told me that I'm still not allowed to hurt animals in GTA. Smile. I've mentioned before that I worked at a toy store. I specifically worked in electronics for selling video games, systems, and whatnot. A popular item at the time was the new Nintendo CXL. One day I had an elderly customer and who I presumed was his wife and daughter in tow. They approached my counter. My guess is that his daughter had a child and was trying to help him purchase a present from Grandpa. Let me see one of those. Points at the CXL. Me, oh, sure thing. I opened the glass cabinet and handed him the box. We had a lot of rules when letting people see electronics to ensure theft and tampering wasn't an issue, mostly for when taking stuff out of the case. We were to let them only see one item from the case at a time, even if it was a group, and watch them while they handled it, asking other customers to wait until we were done serving the customer we were with. Note: I did have someone immediately take off running out of the store the second I handed them one before, so I watched customers like a hawk after that. The man turned the box over in his hands twice, and then immediately proceeded to try to take the tape off to open it. Me, quickly, sir, you can't open that here. You have to purchase it if you want to open it. Him, angrily and loudly, well, why not? Me, we don't sell items in the store that have been opened before. It's to ensure that the item hasn't been tampered with. Even when something is returned, it doesn't go back on our shelves, it goes back to the manufacturer. So if you open it, I can't sell it, even if you'd wanted to buy it, because then it will have already been opened. Him, well, how do I know there's not a bunch of crap in this box? Me, there's not. If there somehow is, you can return it after you've bought it. If you're that worried about it, you can purchase it and open it here in front of me. If there's anything in that box other than what you paid for, I'll take you to returns and get your money back before you leave the store. By this point, I'd taken the item back from him to make sure he didn't try to continue. Luckily the packaging was intact. Him, I used to work in one of those factories. I know they won't hesitate to put a bunch of junk in the boxes. At this point I'm thinking this says a lot more about your integrity than it does mine. But I keep that to myself. Me, I'm sorry, but I can't let you open this box. You can purchase it and then open it if you like, or choose to purchase it elsewhere. Him, forget it. I don't want it anymore. Then they left, and I never saw them come back. A little backstory: I work in a kitchen for a private company. I count as kitchen crew, so basically my job consists of doing whatever I'm ordered to, mostly dishes. I don't mind. Anyway, our chef asked me to help him move the barbecue yesterday. It was heavy, and after we finished the job he did that thing parents do, when their kids are walking behind them to hold their hands, basically held his hands out low. My thought process was, "Mkay dude, you're weird, but I'm not going to leave you hanging," and go and proceed to hold his hand. He wanted a low five. I died. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah, she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance, but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And hashtag X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. It's my husband's birthday and so I baked him an apple pie for his birthday, his request. I take it out and stick it on the cooling rack while I start on some soda bread. I'm digging around in the drawer of lost baking tools for a teaspoon and I find some candles. Score. I think since I didn't know we had any and I call out to my husband, hey. We even have candles. I absent-mindedly stick them in the pie and go back to baking the bread. Halfway through I notice that the candles are crooked and shove them in more firmly to straighten them. I put the bread in the oven and notice that these candles are crooked again. Something about this seems wrong, but I shrug it off and shove them back in more firmly again. It's a lattice top pie, so maybe they just don't have anything to lean on, right? I go to take the bread out of the oven and my husband walks in and looks at me with this look on his face like he's trying really hard not to laugh and says weren't those candles longer before? And then gives me this apologetic look while barely containing his laughter. Realization slowly spreads through me as I realize that I put candles in a pie that I had just taken out of the oven. I reach over and yank them out to find 1.5 inches of wick dangling at the end of each like sad, wet kite strings. I looked at my husband and smiled sheepishly. We laughed. I have a feeling this may be a running joke for years. Luckily, the wax globbed up in chewing gum like wads that could be picked out and didn't ooze through the bottom of the pie so it tasted fine. DL, Doctor, I put candles in a pie I had just taken out of the oven because I wasn't paying attention and they melted. Hope this is okay for this sub, on mobile and not sure how to do any formatting so we'll try to make it easy to read. Bit of background, my younger brother was in year 7, middle school in UK, and I, already left school and working part-time as a swim teacher and lifeguard, was working at my local pool when I was asked to assist at his school during the summer term. I previously went to that school and was friendly towards the teachers whose children were learning to swim at my pool I worked at. Cast me/op equals me B equals younger brother P equals head of P department. I had just gone in to do my induction at the school with P during lunch and we were finishing up by going to the pool equipment store to check out what I had to work with when B walks around the corner. Why B? Alright fat boy, I am on the big side and hate being called that name. P. B this is Mr. Op. You will call him Mr., last name, or Sir during school time and not by any nickname, is that understood? YB, to P yes sir, faces me, sorry Mr., last name. P. Very well, B you will be receiving a lunchtime detention for calling a teacher names during school time. At the end of the day when we got home he told our dad who just cracked up laughing, I don't let him forget this and when the school closed down due to a reshuffle in the education system of the area and had a farewell/former student memorial for the school I got to talk with a few of the old teachers and apparently it was the talk of the school for Thai term after I left, gave all the teachers a chuckle. This took place in early mid-2018. I work for a company that outsources tech support to other companies. Before my promotion I was in the department contracted out a particular ISP central division for their wireless gateway tier 2 department. Before it all became just tier and at the time we were taking regular calls on top of escalation calls. I get a call from a woman and this is how it goes. Note, CX equals customer. Me, thank you for choosing ISP, how may I help you? CX, my internet ain't working. Me, I'm very sorry to hear that, let me just pull up your cuts me off. CX, there's no power. Me, I'm sorry? There's no power? CX, yeah. In the building. Me, pauses for a stretch of time as my mind is trying to grasp stupidity, oh okay. CX, there's now power. Said a little more loudly. Me, right. Pauses again, you need power for it to work. At this point the caller went quiet and I could hear her muttering to someone in the background it needs power for it to work. CX, well there ain't no power. She exclaimed loudly. Me, right. You need power for your internet to work. CX, the building got no power. At this point my headache was growing as I found myself caught in a loop. After an awkward pause I finally respond again. Me, right. We're an ISP. You need to call the power company for this. I hear her again mutter to someone in the background, "We need to call the power company for this." CX, "But we pay you." Me, "Right. You pay us for your internet, not for power. Internet needs power to run. You will have to call your power company." CX, after a brief pause, "Okay." After that the call immediately disconnected. To this day, despite all the idiocy I deal with day in and day out, calling an ISP for a building-wide power outage is still something I cannot wrap my head around. We just moved to a different area and had a change of landline number because of it. We were getting wrongly addressed phone calls every week on it. People were saying they could not play baseball on Saturday or Sunday. We could not care less, but did tell them they got the wrong number. After a few weeks, we asked people why they were calling us. They said this number was stated in their club magazine as the number to call when you could not play. After a few months of this and the amateur club not changing the clearly wrong number in their magazine, we started with a new line on the phone. "Thank you for calling, we will make sure there is a replacement player for you." It did not last a month or the baseball phone calls stopped. So basically I learned how to pen spin like a pro. For the people who don't know what professional pen spinning is, check it out first. So I was in class spinning my pen and my teacher sees me and tells me to stop, otherwise he will ban me from using my pen. I'm like, that's a sick punishment, so he goes and does it, not realizing I would take this seriously. At the end of the lesson the teacher looks at my work and sees nothing and says that's a detention for lack of work. And I say, "Sir, but you banned me from using a pen." He is furious and says if I don't come he's going to get me suspended. Like he can do that. So I just go to the principal and say he banned me from using my pen and said I have a detention for lack of work. And the principal, being a chill principal, let me off. We just moved to a different area and had a change of landline number because of it. We were getting wrongly addressed phone calls every week on it. People were saying they could not play baseball on Saturday or Sunday. We could not care less, but did tell them they got the wrong number. After a few weeks, we asked people why they were calling us. They said this number was stated in their club magazine as the number to call when you could not play. After a few months of this and the amateur club not changing the clearly wrong number in their magazine, we started with a new line on the phone. "Thank you for calling, we will make sure there is a replacement player for you." It did not last a month or the baseball phone calls stopped. I was about to enter a pub when I fell over. Didn't damage myself, just slightly embarrassed and shocked. Got myself a beer and sat at a table to recover. A woman walked over, asked, "Are you okay? Did you hurt yourself there?" I assumed she must be staff, had seen me fall, and was being duly diligent in inquiring into my well-being. "Yes," I said, "I'm fine. I wasn't watching my feet," taking care to speak clearly and coherently in case she thought I was drunk. She sat down at my table, saying, "Oh good, I thought you might have been injured." "Oh no, I'm fine, really I am," I said. She continued to sit there. Odd, I thought, should she not be going back to her job in the pub? But there was someone else serving at the bar, and there were almost no other customers, so perhaps she was just bored or something. She continued to be solicitous, and we chatted for a bit, and then I slowly concluded that she didn't work there. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. But I then realized that someone inside the pub wouldn't have seen me fall over outside because the windows were fairly high and the pub entrance was up some steps, so she must have followed me in from the street. I came to the end of my beer quickly, first drink of the day, clinking beer mugs, clinking beer mugs, clinking beer mugs, winking face, wanted another, so I asked if she wanted a drink. "Yes, she'll have a large Chardonnay. Expensive, but I got her one anyway." She gradually steered the conversation to my personal circumstances, whether I lived with anyone, what sort of place I lived in, what I did for a living. I still couldn't work out what was going on and just continued to string it along, wondering if it was a religious sect recruiter maybe. Then she said she didn't have anywhere to stay. "Could I stay with you tonight?" She was quite respectably dressed, well made up, and did not look like someone who was living on the street. This did not compute, so I just didn't respond. She changed the subject, then after a bit started asking if I could lend her some money. Again, I didn't respond. After chatting a bit more, and when I came to the end of her beer, I said, "Okay, well, thanks for the chat, and thanks for inquiring after me, but I have to go now," and went to the pub across the road for a few more beers. Basically the title. Back when my husband and I were still engaged, I was working at Whataburger, and I went to clean the restrooms. My phone fell out of my pocket while I was scrubbing something off the floor, so I put my phone on top of the hand dryer. After I was finished I walked out forgetting my phone on the hand dryer. Not a minute later I went back in there and there were two girls leaning up against the sink just chilling and talking. I looked on the dryer and my phone wasn't there. I asked them if they saw it, and they said no. Of course I knew they took it, but I wasn't going to cause a scene especially during my second week on the job. I seriously don't know what they planned on doing with it. It was seriously the cheapest cricket phone there was available with only talk and text. I lived with my dad at the time, so whenever I got home I used his phone to call my fiancée and let him know that someone stole my phone. He's like, "Yeah, I know. Her name is Jazz. We've been chatting for a little while." Eventually he called her out about stealing my phone and she stopped texting him and ended up blocking him. Thankfully I got insurance on the phone. All I had to do was go to the store, let them know my phone got stolen, so they shut the service off on it and gave me a free one. I knew there was something off about this guy. You know that feeling you get when you meet someone for the first time and you just know they have ulterior motives. Well, long story short, this guy waited until we were in the middle of our dinner rush and stole this sweet girl's purse from the manager's office. They keep it locked, but every once in a while they leave it ajar, especially when in rushes to go in and out when needed. That's a lot in a rush. He was not very smart because we have him on camera, have his name, phone number, and address. I think the cops will find him. I just feel bad for the sweet girl he stole from. She got her money back, but a woman's purse has more than just money. Her car keys, and all sorts of important stuff in there. They better get him, or at least what is left of what's in the purse. Hi all, second post I have made here. This one is a bit different as it's not my tale but one told to me by my trainer many moons ago, and to this day I still don't know if it's true or a tale to tell the newbies. It's funny, and I have had a call today about death of a customer due to that damn bug and second this week, so I need a laugh. I work for a benefit that helps families out and deals with children. A common call is adding on a child to a claim. My trainer had been teaching a new batch of advisors on how our system works and was doing floor walking to help them out when they got stuck when she gets one of her lot sticking his hand up. This was a summary of the conversation before the trainer was called over. C equals customer. A equals advisor. C, I need to add Tom onto my claim. A, sure, runs through security. A, running through our guidance prompted the advisor to ask, have you registered Tom's birth? C, why would I register a cat's birth? A, cat? C, yes, my cat, I need to add him onto my claim. A, you can't add a cat onto the claim. C, but I have added on my other cats, why can't I add on Tom? A, other cats? C, yes, Ruby and Jess. These are the other children on the claim, and this was the point the trainer was called over. Needless to say, those were removed from the claim and the cat lady was told that no, you can't claim pets as dependents. Hope you got as much of a laugh as we do from this story. Stay safe out there. I work at a typical hotel on the front desk. I've been on 16-hour shifts due to labor costs, cuts in staff, etc. Today, I checked in a Karen from Ohio. As soon as she saw me, she demanded to know why I wasn't wearing a mask. So let's cover a few things before you attack me in the comments. Our state is on phase 2 of beginning to reopen, so they have lifted lots of restrictions in regards to some things. I work at the front desk for 16 hours a day 3 days a week, and 9 hours for 2 additional days in the week. I do laundry, sweep, mop, vacuum the lobby, strip rooms, etc. It is, and always has been totally optional to wear face masks. Lastly, I have asthma. It makes it very hard to breathe. And #X200B. This lady had the audacity to say that I'm super inconsiderate for not wearing a mask. I held it back. I wanted to tell this lady how inconsiderate she is traveling for leisure in the middle of it all. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, And I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again.